And yay. Okay. Well, good morning. Welcome today to talk about the Space to Create writing retreat that's coming up in February of 2026. And today I have one of our fabulous workshop speakers here with us, Beti Spangel. Beti, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here chatting with you today. We have our coffee and we are ready to go.
We are. Show us your mug.
I got my Mary Engelbright mug
I
there.
love that
Don't
style.
don't look back. Keep
I love
moving
it.
forward, even
I
when you
love
don't feel
it.
like it.
I love it. I've got Gail Pittman today. This is my pattern that someone started me on it when it was painted in '93. That was the year we got married, so I just keep
Oh,
adding to it.
oh, nice. Nice.
So
That's
it's kind
very
of
pretty.
fun. But I
Looks like
get
it's hefty too. It's got a good heft to it.
it
I
does,
think
and
that's
I get
important in a mug. It needs to have some to it.
it does. It does. How do you spell that?
I'll have to work. I'll have to work on that. That's a good question. That's a good. We'll have to start creating some words for things.
We can do it. It can be done.
Totally.
Oh, well, Beti, I'm so excited you're going to lead a workshop at the retreat. And so the purpose of this is to let people kind of get to know you
Mhm.
and then hear about what you're going to be talking about. So just tell us about yourself and about your writing journey.
I started writing it really in high school, as I think a lot of us do. We start out pretty early on. When I was in high school, I had the opportunity to participate in it was like a VOTEC program. I'm from upstate New York originally, and it's where I worked for a local newspaper, and it was a program available to juniors and seniors. And in my senior year, I wrote for local newspaper in the afternoons. And it was a very interesting experience. Of course, journalism and technology was a lot different back in 1981, a lot different. Um, but still, it got me in a newsroom and showed me how things work and that kind of stuff. And after I graduated, I did a little bit of stuff for them, but not too much. And I got married and moved on to other things in life. But then I would say about 20 years ago, I had a horse I've always had horses, and I had a horse that had cancer in her eye. And she ended up having to have the eye removed. And I took photographs and I loved our vet and all this kind of stuff. She was in Appaloosa. And I thought, gee, this might make an interesting story for an Appaloosa magazine. So I found one and I pitched the idea to them, not knowing how to pitch ideas at that point. I was just kind of like, hey, this happened to me. Would you guys be interested in it? And they were. And so that got me started in doing small magazine work. That led to working in the local newspaper for the area I was living in at the time. And they were looking for somebody to cover like community events that would appear in the Sunday paper. So it was usually something that happened on a Saturday. I'd go cover it. I'd write up the story, take some digital pictures, and then I'd download everything to them by a certain time, usually 6 or 7 o'clock at night, so they could get it ready for Sunday's paper. And you're not going to get rich doing that, but boy, do you learn a lot, not just about your community, but about writing quickly, writing to deadline, writing effectively within a certain amount of words. So that was a really good experience. So I did that for several years. At the same time, I also started doing some other magazine work, again, just local stuff, nothing on a national scale, but Northeast Living and Adirondack Life and a couple of other local magazines that, I was able to do articles for. So um, I also started writing for Out Here, which is the Tractor Supply magazine. And when we moved in Mississippi 10 years ago, I was able to use all that in writing for um, the Mississippi Farm Bureau's publication, Mississippi Farm Life. I was able to say, hey, I wrote for this stuff in upstate New York. I do agriculture and forestry and that kind of stuff. Do you need any on staff writing? So I was able to get to do some work for them. So that worked out really well. And I did that for several years until I finally started transitioning into more of my own fiction. That kind of took over where my interest was really going. But I still really enjoy the journey of writing for a magazine and a newspaper. It's interesting how you get into it, how you maintain it, the people that you meet, the style of writing, which differs from newspapers to magazines, that's different. And that's really what my presentation is about, basically in a nutshell, how I got into it and then how somebody else can get into it from there.
Oh, I love that. There's a lot of nuance or shifting. Like
Mhm.
I didn't think about from paper. I mean, from
Mhm.
magazine to magazine, because every magazine has its own voice.
Right, they do. They have their own voice. They have their own guidelines. I talk about that quite a bit. Where do you find this information? So much has changed just in the 10 years that I've been here
Mhm.
in how you access information. There is less and less. They say, I debate this, they say there's less and less printed magazines and it's more online. I think there's an equal amount of both, because if you go to any good size Books A Million or Barnes and Noble, you're going to find an entire wall of magazines in print. They cost an arm and a leg, but they're still out there. And a lot of what ends up being in print will also end up being online. So there's a lot of options, if you want to write really short, filler stuff, if you want to try to go for a larger piece. And there's just a lot of outlets out there today, not just magazines, but, your local newspapers too, who are also printing has gone down in volume, but they do a lot online and they always need content. They always need content.
Oh, interesting. I love that. Just local in your community where there's
Mhm.
opportunities.
There is, and that's a lot of what I talk about. I mean, if you want to swing for the bleachers, have at it. You want to write for AARP magazine, that is the holy grail. Go with my blessings. But you're also good with doing something small, like today in Mississippi. This is our local, this is put out by Coast Electric, which is our local electric co-op. This is a great opportunity for somebody looking to break in. These
Mhm.
pieces are not long. Usually an editor will work really well with you and, giving you assignments and giving you information on, what they want. Um, this is another one I wrote for this one. This is the one I wrote for a lot, Mississippi Farm Country. Their editors were fantastic to work with. Again, it's small stuff. It's usually well under 1,000 words, usually between 500 and 750. So those are good bite-sized things to cut your teeth on to get some clips going. I just had three here. Another one is AAA Explorer. You don't realize until you sign up for these things, and you start getting this stuff in the mail, and it's like, hey, I could write a piece about my local blueberry farm or something like that. So
Right.
that's the other thing we'll talk about too in our presentation is pitching ideas to not so much newspapers, but smaller magazines like this, because that's a whole topic unto itself. So there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff in my presentation.
Well, I'm excited. I can tell you it's a topic that you're excited about.
I do. I enjoy it. And like I say, I'm not doing as much as I used to anymore, but learning how the system works and how to break into the area. I love encouraging people to go ahead and, pitch your ideas, reach out to somebody, even if you don't have an idea, like I did with Mississippi Farm Country. I said, hey, I wrote for New York forest owners, stuff like that. And just so they know, they have a little bit of background about what you do. And if they don't know that much about you, they may just give you something small to see, can you get stuff in on time? Can you follow, guidelines? Can you follow deadlines? Stuff like that. But, these are really good starting points, and I like to pass that information on to folks. One thing I did when we first moved down here, my husband, God bless him, I could choke him sometimes, bought a Porsche. Very middle-aged man move, but he did it. He bought a Porsche. I was not thrilled. We then proceeded to have some adventures with it. I'll just put it that way. And I reached out to the Porsche Club of America online. Now they publish a very, very fancy schmancy magazine, Panorama. And, those are very high end, long articles. I didn't see where they would be so interested in me, but I pitched something to their online page. And I said, hey, my husband just did this move. He just bought this stupid car. I'm not real happy about it. I think it's kind of funny. Would you be interested in hearing about it? And they were like, yeah, sure. So I think I had 7 articles published by them
Oh
altogether.
my
It was
goodness.
just on their website, but they were funny. And, it was me being my usual snarky self, and it was told from the point of view of somebody who's not thrilled about the car, but anybody who's looking at that online, they like the cars, they got a kick out of it. So that's another area that you can, explore is doing online stuff based on what's going on in your life. That's how I got started with the Appaloosa Journal. It was something that was going on in my life. I was able to talk about it. Same thing with the cars and, lots of other things. So I'm
Well, that's
rambling. I feel like I'm
exciting.
rambling.
No, I
Oh,
love
too
it.
much coffee. Too much
It's
coffee.
great. We think we have to come up with these things that are outside of ourselves, but
Mm.
we have a treasure trove right
We
here,
do.
things to
We
write about.
do. Yeah. And I think people don't always realize that, they think, oh, what am I going to write about? And I think we'll do a little bit of brainstorming in my presentation.
Oh,
We'll,
good.
we'll talk about that a little bit and, just write down a few things. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what you know about and what you could write a short 500, 750 word article about that somebody would probably be interested in.
That's exciting. Looking forward to the retreat and to the workshop. It'll be fun. Well, so you've attended two retreats,
Uh,
um,
yes. Yes.
and so last year you spoke. The
Hmm.
first year you came,
Yes.
and I just you had so much courage to pop into a retreat where you didn't know a single soul. I love it.
Yes.
And then the next year you taught
Hmm.
a workshop on limiting beliefs and
Right.
kicking limiting beliefs to the curb,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah.
excellent.
Thank you.
Then
Thanks. That was
the
fun.
it was you did a great job.
Thank you.
We do, and I mean the things that we tell ourselves matter,
Hmm.
especially as writers.
Hmm.
It can keep us from just moving forward. Um,
Yeah.
so tell me about your experience at the retreat. And yeah, in case someone out there is going, I mean, this sounds
Hmm.
interesting, but I don't know.
Yeah. Um, I forget how I found out about it in the first place. I think something popped up on my Facebook feed on one of my writing pages. Um, but what really intrigued me was the fact that it was held at a camp because I am a summer camp kind of gal. And if you know me, you know my history. I love the whole camp experience, the feel of it, the feel of a lodge and a cabin and the lake and the trees. And it's just, I just love it. So that was part of the appeal, but the workshops really spoke to me. And it's like, this looked like a really casual, interactive, fun thing to participate in. So I went the first year and I was blown away. I loved it so much. And every night, all day long, I was texting my husband pictures. Look at the arena. Look at the lake. Look at the fence. Look at the trees. I just loved it. And the way you have things set up where it's a communal dinner and breakfast and we all eat together, which is really nice. But the presentations, the workshops were really great. And you also had downtime. You could do some writing on your own, or you could just kind of wander around the grounds and take in the ambiance of the area. I just loved it. I was so glad I went. It was like, this was worth every cent. And it's very affordable, but I was like, it was worth every cent. I was so happy I went. And then you and I talked a little bit about, I spoke about, I do this little presentation. I have two in my repertoire. You're getting the second one this year. So it's like, after that, I'm done. But I did a thing on imposter syndrome because I've done a lot of that in my work. I worked in domestic violence for a long time. I was an advocate for a program in New York, and we tend to listen to what other people tell us, and think we can't do things and all that kind of stuff. And so I took that and applied it towards writing. And, I still struggle with it myself all the time, but I thought it was a very interesting topic to really flesh out for writers. So that's how I built that presentation. And I had the wonderful opportunity of doing that last year. That was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed doing that. And I got to be in French camp again for a second year. I was so excited about that. And then, you just recently had the working retreat, which was also fabulous. I really enjoyed that. And that was just, that was not workshop oriented. That was, doing some writing and just being in your space, by yourself and working on whatever you wanted to work on. So that was great. I think your retreat has just gained momentum every year. It's not overly large. It's very intimate. By the time everybody parts on Sunday morning, there are hugs all around. There's tears. I mean, it's just everybody really builds a bond over those 3 days. And, so it's so worth it. It's just a wonderful, wonderful program.
Thank you. I'm so glad. So would you classify yourself as a hugger or not a hugger on a
I
general
am, I am not a hugger. I am not a hugger. I'm like, okay, we're good. Um, the perfect story, and I like to tell this, my husband's a hugger. He's very emotional. He's a very sensitive man, which is one of the things I love about him. But we'll be having, a dispute about something, and he'll be like, do you want to talk about it? And I'll be like, I'm good. That kind of sums me up. I am not a hugger, but I mean, I will, but for people that I know, by the end of the retreat, I'm
Right,
comfortable hugging those folks, at the beginning, not so much. And people I don't know, forget it. Keep your distance. But,
right.
you can't help but build relationships with these people that you spend this kind of time with, and you talk about what you're working on. And even if you feel like you feel like your stuff has no value, still to be able to talk with other people and be in the room with them, there's so much to be gained by that. um you know and we'll talk about this more. I assume the scholarship that we're offering through the Picayune Writers Group, um I always say it's networking, it's being with kindred spirits. There's so much value to be gained by that. You're going to learn stuff. And I mean, some of the stuff, there goes Prince,
There
he's
goes
going
my
off the wall. He's breaking out. um there's so much to be gained just by being with other people, even if you're not looking to be published. Still, to have validation that, what I write matters, even if it's just to me, that's great. That's cool. I can do that. There's just so much value there.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
Hmm.
It's become, besides Christmas, it's become my favorite weekend of the year because it's so much fun. I love
Hmm.
it. You get writers in a room and there's so much energy. And
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
by the end of the retreat, you know people, you know what they're writing, and
Hmm.
they've talked about it. And there's such a validation
Hmm.
when people are hearing what you're when people will sit and listen to what you're excited
Yes,
about. Because in
yes,
our everyday
yes.
lives, we don't have, I mean, I not most people in my life, my people I live with in my house, they don't really sit and go, Mom, tell me what you're writing about.
Yeah. Hmm.
They got their own lives.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
to be in a room where people go, that is a great idea, or have
Hmm.
you thought about this? And
Hmm.
it's just,
Hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like iron sharpening iron, as
That's very true.
you
Yeah,
rub your
that's a
ideas
really good way of
against.
saying it. And I know the first year I came, the first night, I mean, I'm a bona fide introvert. I really am, so I really kind of had to push myself to do this. It's one thing to go to like a 1-day conference or a seminar, but to go someplace where you're going to be staying and sleeping for a couple nights, I wasn't sure, do I really want to do this? But I know the first night of the first retreat I went to, we were sitting in the lodge. um I'm calling it
It's
living
kind of a
room.
living room
It's kind of a living
area.
room. We were all sitting there, and I'm like, I was almost hyperventilating. I was almost on the verge of an anxiety attack. I'm like, I don't know if I want to stay here. I don't know if I can sit here in this room with these people. I don't know. And I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, I really got anxious about it. And I realized it was me. It was just the way I was processing things. But like calm myself down, and you know, I didn't feel pressure to participate if I didn't really want to. I could just sit there and listen to what other folks were saying, and then I could say, I could jump in or chime in if I wanted to. So I think that's one of the other beauties of this retreat. There's no pressure. There's no pressure for you to pretend that you're something that you're not, or that you're going to do something you don't really want to or think you might do. But just to be able to bounce ideas off other people and have your thoughts heard and validated by other people is very valuable. I think one of my favorite parts of the retreat is the open mic night. I loved open mic night. That is so
Wait,
much fun.
you're an
That
introvert
that
saying I love open mic
yeah,
night.
and I loved open mic night. But it's so much fun to read something of yours. And it's like the first thing I read was about the gingerbread man.
Yes.
And there was like one curse word in it, but I remember I can still see this so clear. I got behind the podium and I can see Joe sitting over there. I fell in love with Joe that day. I see Joe sitting over there, and I'm like, okay, there's a little bit of profanity here. Is everybody okay with that? We're all adults here, and they're like, oh yeah, go ahead, you're fine. And I read it, not sure how it would be taken, and people really enjoyed it, and
Mhm.
people enjoyed everything everybody read, you know.
Mhm.
And that is what a sense of community you get from that, that, you can read something and have people, give you feedback if you want it, or just laugh or clap or say, oh, what a lovely piece. I've heard some people read amazing things there.
Mhm.
So that to me is one of the great values of the retreat is that I love open mic night. I love
I'm
it.
so glad that it's strategic that it's not the last night. Wait, the critique is the last night.
The critique is the last night. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the, it's the,
It's the open
it's
mic.
after
Open mic
the
is the first night, and then critique is the second night. And there's a lot of value in critique too.
Mhm.
I got some good feedback on some of my pieces that, for my book that I read there, that people say, oh, maybe this, but not that, or like, this didn't quite flow right, or, I didn't quite understand what was going on there. And I think when you write something and you're looking at it and you're editing and working with it and you're living with it for so much, you kind of lose sight of it. It's hard to see the picture when you're standing inside the frame. You need some objectivity from somebody else,
Yeah.
and it's critique, but it's not criticism. It's
Mm.
feedback. It's really productive feedback on your work. And again, it's totally optional. You don't have to get up there and read anything if you don't want to. But when you do, I think there's a lot of value in that, especially if you're working on a project like I am. So that's another nice segment of the weekend.
Well, good. Well, tell me how attending the retreat has helped you move forward in your writing journey.
I would say the biggest way it has helped me, besides being around kindred spirits, which I find very energizing. I need that. I really do. I need that. Aside from that, I met Lindsay at the first retreat, and that gal has really put a firecracker under my butt, and it was great. She was the first retreat that I went to. She was offering sessions. It was one of the add-ons of the weekend, which you do have add-ons.
Mhm.
She was an add-on to sit down and talk about your project or whatever. It's like, a little mini coaching session. And I was a little nervous about doing it because, it's like, oh, she's going to think I'm stupid. My stuff is stupid. But when I sat down with her, it was such a great experience. And she really got me rolling. I was very stuck with my website. I was trying to do a blog and I was just like making no progress whatsoever. And she really helped me see what I could be doing with it. And she just helped me get unstuck,
Mhm.
which I think is a great value in coaching. And as a result, she's now working with me on editing my book and keeping me moving forward. So I think there's tremendous value in that. And also knowing I was coming back the second year, it's like, well, gee, I want to be able to give them an update. I don't want to say, oh, I've done nothing in the past year, but sit around, drink coffee and look at my monitor all day. So, that was a little bit of pressure. And again, I put it on myself. It's nothing you have to do, but it's like, okay, I want to be able to tell these people who believed in me so much that first year and believed in my project that I am making progress. Even though it's not done yet, I'm gaining ground and I'm making progress. And it's an accountability. It becomes an accountability thing. But even if you're not working on a project, just to have those people around you to say, hey, your stuff is good. What are you working on? Hey, this is what I'm working on. What do you think? There's, again, I know I keep saying this, but there's so much value in that and being around those people. So.
I agree. Lindsay's great. And she's
Mhm.
not, I would not describe her as ooey gooey or, she'll like
Nope.
someone that would say nice things if she doesn't
Hmm.
mean them.
Oh yeah, that she talks my language. She and I are like, boom, this is what's going on. She doesn't, there's no coddling there. And
Right.
that's not what I want. So that's why we're a good fit because she won't baby me. I said to her one day, I said, I changed my deadline for my first thing. And I'm not apologizing for it. I couldn't do it by the 31st. I'm giving myself 2 weeks. And she's like, okay, write down 2 weeks, boom. But she still holds my feet to the fire in an accountable way. At
Right.
the end of the day, it's still your project. It's still what you're working on, and you can work on it any way you want. But to have somebody that can give you a little guidance and kind of get you back on track if you're floundering, which I was totally floundering, she kind of helped get me back on track and, moving forward. So, like your book, mine's been 10 years in the making, and it's like, okay, can we please wrap this up? Because I've got other characters in my head who are dying to
Yes.
come out, and they're like, would you please get this over with so we can move on to other things? But yeah, there's tremendous value in getting a coach on board with you.
Mm. Betty, I think we're gonna have like a name for our launch parties, like the Deca something, decade.
I agree. Yeah, that's good. We'll have to work on that. You'll bring that up at the retreat.
Yes, we'll throw that into the brainstorming sessions.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Oh, well, Betty, where can people find you online if
I
they want to
have
connect
I
with
have
you?
my little website, which I've done a lot of work on, and I'm very pleased it's finally getting back up and running. I don't have all of my past work reloaded on it, but it's getting there. It's bettyspangel.com, and it's BETISPANGEL.com is my website. And I do a blog of little short stories, which reflects what my first book is about. So it's kind of reflective of the type of writing that I do. So I've got some of those short stories there. I try to do every other week, but that's life, again, getting in the way. But there's that. And there's also some of my past work that I've had published. I did have to recently revamp my website, so not everything has been reloaded, but it's working, and it's a work in progress, but that's where I can be found. You can also email me at bspangel@hotmail. And can I talk about the scholarship for a second?
Yes,
Tell
I
you
meant
about
to
that?
ask you about that. Yeah.
I'm a member of the Picayune Writers Group, and we meet every Tuesday here in Picayune, except the first Tuesday of the month. And this year we're offering a scholarship to the Space to Create retreat. And to apply, you have to be a dues paying member of the Picayune Writers Group. And our dues are $25, which are good for a year. And it's going to be 500-word essay on why you would like to attend this retreat. So if you're interested in that and you're not a member of the Picayune Writers Group, reach out to me and I'll give you the information on how to become a member. And then you can go ahead and apply for the scholarship. The applications will be reviewed by the officers. I'm an officer of the group as well. We have 4, and we'll be reviewing applications and then picking one, I think, a week before your deadline. So the scholarship is for a double occupancy. You can upgrade to a private single occupancy if you want to make up the difference yourself. You can do that. Or better yet, get a friend to attend with you, so that we're going to encourage people to do that. But we're really excited to be able to offer this scholarship. I have raved about the retreat at our writers group. Every time I go, I'm like, I was at French camp this past weekend, let me tell you. They're like, okay, go on and rave about it again. But it is such a worthwhile and wonderful event. And this year after our symposium, we were financially in a position to offer a scholarship to one writer who would like to go. So, and you don't have to be published or have a work in progress. You just have to be somebody who's interested in writing. You can go on your WordPress page to look at the schedule and see who the speakers are going to be and see exactly what it's about to see if it's something you're interested in applying for.
That's exciting. Talk about
Yeah.
validation. That
Mhm.
the fact that y'all are offering that scholarship
Mhm.
to me validates that the Space to Create retreat
Mhm.
fills a void that was there. It was something that was needed.
Yes, yes, it does. I mean, we do a 1-day seminar with Picayune, which is wonderful. I think we put on a good program. A lot of work goes into it. I've been an event planner in a past life, so I know the amount of work that goes into something like what you coordinate. I mean, that's a lot. So, to be able to, do a 1-day workshop is great. You get a lot out of it, but then to be able to immerse yourself in 3 days with writers, and it's not a huge group. It's not like a group of 100 people. How many is capacity for the retreat?
I think 30 is going to
30.
be our
Yeah.
capacity.
So it stays an intimate group, and so it doesn't feel overwhelming. It never feels overwhelming. And that's one of the great things about it is, you can come and just work at your own pace, participate at your own pace, and just, as I say, get to be in a room full of kindred spirits for 3 days. In French camp, at the camp, it's fantastic. Have to do it. Have to do it.
I love it. I love it. I still to have an introvert saying it's so good to be with people. I'm like, yay.
You may be pulling me out a little bit, but it's kind of like a bungee cord. I only get so far and I get
Right.
snapped back. That's why I always get a private room. I'm like, nope, I'm done. My social battery's worn out. I got to go back to my room for a while. And that's fine. You can do that. You can go
Yeah.
recharge by the lake. You can recharge in your room. You can recharge taking a walk. I walked around the lake this year. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
there's just so much. There's so much to really participate in. So yeah, it's great.
I'm so glad. Well, Betty, my last question is I'm asking as I interview people, I'm asking them, how do you um, create space to write in your everyday life? What's your routine, or what are your
Mhm.
the ways that you fit writing into life? Because life is crazy busy.
Life is crazy, and that's probably been my biggest challenge, in all honesty, is which is one of the reasons why I enjoyed the writing retreat so much. I work from home part-time. I also have two part-time jobs outside of the home. I have my elderly mother who requires a lot of handling, have to handle mom. Um, so there's freedom in working from home, but sometimes I don't make the time for it that I want to. In a perfect world, in most days, I'll be fair, in most days, I'm a very early riser. My husband's out of the house very early, so I'll often get up with him. And at that time, it's quiet, my brain is fresh. I meditate for 10 minutes, I journal for 10 minutes, and then I read for 10 minutes. And then I will work on my project for a while. I have a timer I set on my computer. I do 30 minutes. I just sit down and I work on it. I keep the phone in the other room because that's a serious distraction. I try not to do any research for my project until the afternoon because there's rabbit holes. I've broken more legs in rabbit holes on this project than you can shake a stick at. So I try to keep that writing time strictly writing time.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'm stuck and I don't feel like I know what to write. I have an app that I'll use where I have to keep writing for a certain word count or a certain amount of time. If it stops, it erases everything. If I stop, it erases everything I've done. That helps me get going. Even if it's just junk, it's something that keeps me going. But I try to do it in the morning. That's when I'm freshest. Um, Lindsay's helped me a lot in looking at my calendar, not so far ahead, but like a week ahead. You know, what can I do? What can I work on a week from today? What am I working on today? And then, okay, today's Thursday. How's next Thursday working? How is next Thursday looking? I'll block out 30 minutes or an hour to do some work. Um, in a perfect world, we'd all be, sitting in, Key West with a bourbon and just writing all day. But it doesn't work, life just doesn't work out that way. And sometimes you have to fit it in where you can. And
Mhm.
I'm kind of a fit it in where I can. I try to be more structured. I like structure. I'm a linear thinker. But again, with life, it doesn't always work out that way. But when you give yourself that permission to take that 10 minutes, 30 minutes, do those 250 words that day, you've made progress. Even if you feel like it's minuscule, if you can make a little bit of progress every day or every other day, it's going to add up. And I try to keep reminding myself of that. It's just keep plugging away at it, do your best and be happy with your best. And some days are more productive than others. That's life. You have to learn to live with
Yeah.
that, you know, and, just keep on keeping on, again, don't look back, just keep working forward. It says here, your life and no longer an option. So those are the two paths, you're going to move forward on your life and just,
Mm.
just keep trucking forward with it.
I love that. Thank you. Thanks for sharing your practices with us.
I wish I would like to be a little more structured. I think we're all works in progress,
Mm,
Um,
definitely.
we really are. We really are. And, Katrina, that gal, boy, she's got a bunch of kids, passel of kids at home. She homeschools, and yet she publishes a couple of books a year. I was looking at her this past weekend going, damn girl, what's my excuse? But comparison really is a downer, and you're not going to get anything by comparing, your life and what you do to somebody else's. You know, you need to find your own best path forward and just stick with it to the best of your ability. And sometimes you need to try different things, and that's good. But you know, comparison will knock you off track every time. Just do the best you can every day. Just take it one day at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's lots of grace in that.
Yes.
I hear you saying.
Yeah.
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 Well, fine. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to say about the retreat or your workshop?
You know, the retreat, sign up for it. You will not be sorry. It is money well spent. It is time well spent. You know, arrange to have, you know, your spouse take care of the kids for a weekend, or call your parents and have them take the kids off your hands and watch the dog, and take that time out for yourself to do it. This presentation that I'm going to do, I've done in the past at our Picking Writers Group Symposium. I did it a couple of years ago. I love it. I love it. I think it's a great presentation. You're going to be so glad you saw it. You're going to learn a lot. But there's a lot of really good information there that I think will help people. And you know, if you're on the fence, apply for the scholarship. Reach out to me about becoming a member of the Picayune Writers Group if you're in the area. You know, we're not that far away. You know, it's $25 a year. It's very affordable, and by doing so, you can apply for, you know, the scholarship, which is there's, you know, so much value in that. I'm so excited that we can offer it to people this year.
Me too. Well, good deal. Well, thank you for being with us today, Betty. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me blather on. My throat is sore from talking. This is the most I've talked, I think, in weeks. My goodness. But thank you
I
so
love
much
it.
for giving me the opportunity to talk with everybody today.
And thank you for being with us, and sign up for the retreat. It's gonna be
Yes.
fun. All right, let me hit the right end button. The one that says end is not the one I want, because it will end the whole thing. There we go.